Do you want me to do a quick roll call? Okay. Lundgren? Wilkinson is excused. Slobodan? Kvapil is excused. Harris is excused. Grumens? Stiniker? Howell is excused. Salzer? Rashid? Perfect. We have a quorum.
We'll call the meeting to order. Are there any changes or corrections to the meetings, meeting minutes from last month?
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion carries.
Can you call for a vote on it? Voice vote.
All in favor, say aye.
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 And nay? Nobody? All right. Motion passes. This is my first time doing this meeting, so it might be a little rough, guys.
He's doing great.
Thank you. Hey, we just started, so. Start with old business, case DR 2017, request for design approval in the CD Downtown Zoning District, revised exterior materials, signage and fencing for a new 183 unit apartment building at 500 LeClaire Street, Grand Par. Or is anyone here?
Yes, hi, I'm Grand Par CFG. How are you doing today?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Can you tell us a little bit about your project?
How would you like me to? Yeah, so we've got a 182 unit apartment building. We've actually been through design review board before. As many of you probably know, we have had a huge increase in construction costs over the past about a year at this point. And so a lot of this is just some cosmetic changes, but material changes to the exterior of the building. We'll be moving some of our fiber cement to some of the high quality vinyl that you guys have in front of you. I was able to send out a lot of the samples, but I think there was one that I wasn't able to send out. I'm looking at my documentation that I have of exactly what I sent out. We have our exterior elevations provided as well. I believe Matt would have provided you guys with that. You guys can look over it. We just really want to stress, like, this is high quality vinyl. It's not some cheap stuff that, it breaks off as soon as the sun hits it the first year. It's got an extremely good warranty. We put it on a lot of our buildings as accent pieces even, so.
Okay, we're going to kind of just, for the benefit of the board, Matt Werderich will kind of go through what was submitted in terms of the elevations and then what staff recommendation is.
Okay, sounds great.
All right, so this project came before the design review board in June of 2020 and was approved. So the applicant's coming back to revise some of the exterior building materials. So I just passed out the material samples that were sent to us showing the proposed siding as well as color choices on the building. So some of the changes that are proposed with the revised design include areas of painted fiber cement siding will be converted to vinyl siding with a similar color palette and lifetime warranty. There also will be fields of brick along the base of the building that will be added. The windows that were approved were a black vinyl window. That has been changed to a white vinyl. Transoms above the windows and balcony doors will be removed under this proposal. Select studio units will eliminate balconies. And then there will be a replacement of brick row lock with metal flashing to avoid water infiltration in select areas. So staff have reviewed the proposed changes. The new materials still are a high quality, durable material. So for this portion of the project, in terms of the exterior facade change, we're recommending approval. And then, sure. So then the second component of this project is the proposed monument sign. So the monument signs proposed along the main entrance, which basically is where Leclerc Street dead ends on the south portion of the site. It'll be in the median there. So it's roughly a 37 square foot monument sign, just over 3.5 feet in height and just shy of 10 feet in width. It will be a aluminum building material with the black background with white channel lettering. The name of the project, it's been referred to as the Yard Apartments. However, that name has not been finalized. So project name is shown on the application as a placeholder until a formal name has been chosen. However, the font style and lettering will remain consistent despite the project name being inserted. And then the final component of this application today is for approval of the vinyl coated chain link fence. This is along the north portion of the site. It will be placed on top of the retaining wall. So Federal Street is directly north. There's an existing chain link fence along Federal Street, along that south side that's not coated. So that will be replaced, and then this fence will be placed on the retaining wall. Originally, the plan was approved with a green vinyl coated chain link fence. However, after a discussion with the applicant, the color has been changed to black. The applicant felt that this better matched the color scheme of the building, such as the black railings on the balconies and the gray color palette chosen for the building. And then much of the downtown streetscape, such as street lights, benches, trash cans, are all being installed with that black coating, so it kind of will fit the character of the downtown a little bit better. So staff is recommending approval of the exterior building material changes, the proposed black vinyl coated chain link fence, and then approval of the proposed monument sign, however, with conditions. One being that the monument sign shall have building permits submitted to city staff. And then the other, there's one pertaining to the proposed height, limiting it to within the city code as well as the proposed area. And then the city requires landscaping around the base of monument signs. So we have a condition in there requiring that the base of the monument sign be landscaped.
Matt, I have a couple questions. First is, I presume that
Can you lean into the microphone so that the applicant can hear you too?
I can. Couple of questions. I presume the vinyl siding that's replacing the cement board is still horizontal as opposed to vertical. Is that correct?
There is some board and batten which goes vertically. I believe it's indicated on the elevations. I'm flipping through the application that I submitted to tell you exactly which page it is.
I think you
But
can
there
see
is
it.
some board and batten.
You can
Okay.
kind of see it right. Oops,
This is Billy Ponko, one of CWG's architects on the call too. I can answer some more details. On the vertical orientation, we tried to implement or replace similar textures or patterns with the same textures and patterns that were originally designed in fiber cement. So we had vertical lineation with fiber cement panel used. Very common with fiber cement is the aluminum reveal strips.
Sure.
So, for example, the red P5 area was always vertical orientation.
Right.
Here we're using, the materials that are available in the vinyl, which gives it more of that raised reveal, being the batten.
So I don't know if you can see it from there or
Thank
not,
you.
but the
Yes.
P5 and P7 are board and batten as on this one.
And then another good example here is this project from the get-go was we're trying to utilize different textures and colors. So, for example, P1 is still a field of smooth, flat fiber cement panel that you just can't replicate that with vinyl. So we kept some of it to try to keep with the original theme, varying texture, color.
Thank you. Another question I have is the makeup of the monument sign. I'm guessing that's aluminum with a concrete base.
Correct. It's aluminum structure mounted onto a concrete pad.
Okay. And it's,
Actually, I do not think there's a concrete pad. I think it's just they're setting columns in concrete,
Okay.
all installed by the signage manufacturer or fabricator in this location.
so
A typical sign for us that we've rolled out.
So I'm guessing there'll probably be 3 columns, and are those columns wrapped with anything?
What you see here is the sign's kind of manufactured with a sleeve process, so they'll set the steel posts 4x4 tube, or they can work with round pipe if they choose. They set 2 of them in the ground, concrete them in, then the whole kind of box sign that you see with the project name and that darker gray shroud all slips down over those pipes, set screws into place, and it's a lot easier than bringing in multiple contractors for large concrete pads, much lighter sign design.
Sure. Then is it lit?
Yes, it
Yes,
would
this
be.
one is illuminated, correct.
So the
There's
picture
that
on,
image kind of right on the side of the screen.
right here,
That
this
shows
one.
it like kind of the nighttime view.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Are these samples, is that what it will look like as far as the texture? Okay.
Correct.
You're referring to the samples you have in your possession, the
Right.
physical siding samples, or yeah. So what I think we sent up there, Graham, we sent the Georgia Pacific, we sent a Certainteed product line. We're having trouble getting some of the sampled literature from different manufacturers. Either they're running out of them, or they've distributed them. So I think Graham referred to the one you don't have, I think is the board and batten. We're making sure to try to use a 0.44 material thickness. So both those manufacturers, Certainteed and Georgia Pacific are very reputable in the industry for other product lines. A lot of times they're common shingles and gypsum board products, but they're becoming large conglomerates now. They have material ranges that go all the way down to 0.036, so 36 thousandths of an inch, and then they go up as thick as 52. The 44 seems to be the higher end. What you'll notice, the 44 starts to kick in around some of their premium colors, the bolder, darker, solid colors, your reds, your blues. You'll find thinner material in the cheaper product color lines that are more common in the white, light tans and beiges. We take a thicker material. One of the product lines, usually based on just we're still going to operate it. We got to protect against thrown stones and mowing and weed whacking around the siding. Some of the QAP requirements that for the affordable housing require that where you have vinyl siding, you have 6 feet of brick. So that's the reason we added brick back in below the building. There are some areas where we are matching. We have horizontal fiber cement for the first floor where there might be a horizontal break like a balcony. Then we continue the vinyl siding above and we're color matching the colors there.
So it will, but the siding itself will have kind of this rough texture rather than smooth?
Yeah, that wood grain, correct.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Is there any further questions?
Yeah, just really quick, can you kind of outline the changes? You were talking about some changes to the balconies. Can you tell me like what materials out there what was there, what's going there now?
Well, the balcony changes on the, we eliminated some of the balconies on our smaller studio units. That was part of the cost savings where we added in some, a third windows at some of those locations. Mostly they were in the northeast corner, where we just took the balcony off altogether. We have some of the studio configurations have balconies still. So there's still a good mix within the property. And then that was the extent of what affected actual balconies. There were some windows at the doors. I think if you zoomed in at any of those balconies that are existing, we had a transom window that was about 12 inches tall that kind of leveled out the height of the door with the adjacent windows. So the header of the windows are at 8 feet. The door is at 6 feet 8. So that was one of those aspects, but we're facing, and not for our liking at all, significant cost increases across the board. It's driven by, everybody hears lumber in the market, but we're seeing it all the way into PVCs, even as lumber is balancing out, other sectors are facing shortages and they're lacking resupply coming back through the network.
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
Second. Motion carries.
Wait,
Oh, sorry.
Greg, is your motion with staff conditions?
I'm sorry, yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then if you could do a vote, please.
Yes. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, say no.
Motion passes.
Motion passes. Moving on to the next case. DR 2035, request for design approval, downtown zoning district, HVAC at 209 South Gain Street, Mount Woodman Park, City of Davenport. So petitioner here.
Yeah, I'll cover it. So this originally came through, it was tabled twice. One, it was proposed originally to have an elevated beam support system for a new HVAC system that would be going on Modern Woodman Park. The issue that we're running into is that the roof cannot support the weight of the HVAC equipment. And so the original proposal had an I-beam structure that was about 6 feet above the roof line, and then you'd place the HVAC system on top of that. So the total height associated with it would have been about 12 feet in the air, and highly visible due to the nature of Modern Woodman Park. We went back to Shive Hattery, our design firm, and asked them to space the units out. That does actually get some efficiencies in terms of cost savings to the city as well, so that they could sit more directly on the roof to distribute the weight more evenly across the roof. However, the option of screening is not really there. The added weight associated with the screening, it is the structural engineer at Shive Hattery's recommendation that we don't do that. It'd be pushing the limits on what that roof can handle for a load. So the city is asking for approval of the HVAC equipment with no screening. It is set back fairly far from the roof line. So the units will be about 6 feet, 7 inches in height. And they will be, it varies from 19 feet, 11 inches from the edge of the straight section of the building back to 38 feet, 10 inches from the edge along the curb. So they'll be set back pretty far from street view. And so we find that if we did do it, it would have to be, it couldn't be a contiguous parapet, that the weight limit wouldn't be allowed on that roof. And then having individual screenings around each of the HVAC units would be more distracting than just not having a screening at all. So And then staff is recommending approval of that based on those, the structural engineer's opinion. So here is some visuals for you. On the left, you see existing. I can zoom in a little bit for you. So that's what it looks like as of today. And then that would be what it would look like with the HVAC units on top. And then from a different angle. So that's as it is today. And then an estimated view with the HVAC units on it.
Or I guess the concern that I have, and it's a precedent issue, in that other buildings that have proposed HVAC units on their roof, we've always asked them to screen. And now along comes this, and I understand weight, but an engineer can figure that out for distribution of weight. And I guess for the board, that's probably my biggest concern, is that all of a sudden now, a city project, and we're not requiring screening. Whereas private person came in today, and I'm thinking of that restaurant down in the east part of town where there was a big discussion about whether or not they should have to screen, and they didn't want to, but we made them. And I don't know if you remember that, George or PJ, but I guess it just concerns me that now we're going to make an exception for the city. And again, I guarantee you an engineer can figure out the weight limitations to accommodate a screen on that.
The option is to go with a completely different design where it, as I can show you in a second, but it would be about 12 feet up in height. It has to sit on an I-beam structure.
Sure.
And then it would be 12 feet up. So you basically are adding another floor in an area. And our opinion was that that would be more detrimental than evenly distributing a lower profile HVAC system on the structure.
So what are they supporting that structure that they're going to sit the screen on top of?
Steel beams.
Before those steel beams?
They're on a newer part of the roof.
They're laying on the roof?
No, they're elevated up above the roof. They're distributing the weight and tying it into other pieces of the building.
But what are they attached to? I mean, that.
It'll be attached to the existing structure, existing roof joist, so they're probably going to drill through the existing roof membrane and attach to that, and then come up 6 feet. And Laura, isn't there an image?
Hold on 1 second. It's not attached to this one.
And I think, that there is significant cost to doing that, so we'll probably have to go back to the board, I mean, the team, and decide what we want to do if it's.
Well, and I understand the additional cost, but as I said, for that private owner down on the east end of downtown, they had additional costs too.
Right.
But yet they did it, and as we asked them to. Mm-hmm. And I'm just concerned about what happens next month when somebody comes in and they don't want to screen either because it's going to cost too much. Yeah, we're setting a precedent here, and we've already set one by making people screen their HVAC units.
I had asked legal about precedents, and it's the general merits of each individual project and the unique circumstances of a project. And these are guidelines, not rules. So just to keep that in mind. So this is what this, I can zoom in a little bit more so you can see it better. This is what it would look like.
So all the units are now sitting in
Yeah, that's
in one
all
spot.
of the units that are in one spot. And instead of having a lower profile, it would be a larger profile in one spot on the building.
And I think it sits directly on top of that little balcony, which I think currently has all the existing units. Yeah, it has all the units in the balcony that you can see. That little cutout is where they have all, but
There's
they
this
couldn't
is
find
actually-
room to put it there.
Yep, this is actually a parapet wall right here, and there's additional
Units behind
units
it.
behind that would remain. So there's just not room behind the existing parapet for it.
So would the board be more leaning towards this solution rather than having it spread out the way they proposed, or what would be your thoughts? Like to screen it this way, or just, because I think the designers are saying that if we separate it, then we cannot screen it all together just because of the weight. It'll have to be individually screened. Otherwise, we go with this option where we group them together and then screen around it. And then I guess the city can evaluate how they want to proceed with this project. But I think right here, we want to know, like,
I will say
what
that
was
it's about $250,000 more expensive to do this. And as the city's floodplain manager, we start running into issues with, while this building has a lot of value, it keeps having improvements on it. And it's going to get to the point where it will need to meet the flood regulations, and the city would have to do significant work on it to make it meet the floodplain regulations as well. So we're trying to work within a specific dollar amount in order to avoid that as well.
So this is what's being proposed, this option right here?
No, this is
the
this
other
is-
option?
right. The one that's being proposed
Would be different spots.
is this one, which, keep in mind, there's already stuff on the roof right now.
I guess my opinion, well, I'm not even sure it's an opinion, but I understand what you're saying about costs and so forth. But I also understand Greg's concern about precedent and what's happening there. So I don't know how that balances out.
Yeah, I agree with Greg on the precedents, but, to legal's point, is this a different circumstance than what the restaurant was facing? Were they facing, potentially, let's say catastrophic results if they added that extra weight? So different circumstances, I think, call for different measures, but I certainly do understand the merits of that.
Well, I guess I'm having difficulty understanding why they can't, in a more reasonable cost frame, figure out how to separate those and still put a screen up there. I don't understand, and you probably have a contractor's estimate on that, and $250,000 to screen those units is outrageous.
That's for the I-beams. So you can't add screens without adding, it would be right up against the load that the roof would be able to handle, like right on it. So we would not do this design with screening. The only alternative is the other one we showed, where it would be on an I-beam structure, and it would have a profile of at least 12 feet on the building. Those are the two options.
Well, and I'm guessing that there are other examples, but on that I forget the name of the building, but they went in, I went down and watched them. I just happened to stop by and I knew a guy that was working on it. And they built a structure underneath with just 4 additional bar joists attached to distribute the load to put the unit up there and screen it. And, you know, like I said, Laura, my big concern is, and I understand what legal's saying, but bottom line is, we have a private citizen come in here and ask to do away with screening. And we say, no, you have to do it because design review guides say you do. And along comes the city, never mind, it's gonna cost too much. Well, it costs that guy too much too.
It's not because of the cost, it's because the weight load cannot handle it.
But that guy down there figured out, his engineering team figured out a way to distribute the load for the screening.
Was
too.
that his reasoning? Is that the roof couldn't handle the weight?
No, he just didn't like the deal to begin with. It was just additional cost.
Then that's the difference, I would say.
No.
Can we hear from the architect? Can they come in and explain? I'm not questioning your knowledge and background on this.
Trishna is the project manager and an architect, and she can, and
I don't think so. I could speak on this because I didn't design it. It would be Larry Sanders who designed it, and he's the structural engineer, so maybe we can bring him in.
there's a
and-
letter from him in here with his opinion. That was included in the packet.
I apologize, Lori, I didn't see that.
Yeah, so he's a professional engineer, structural engineer that provided that opinion. Basically, it says that placing the additional weight of equipment screens on the 1930s roof with limited capacity isn't recommended from a structural perspective if there are other viable alternatives. If the equipment screens are necessary, we recommend returning to the equipment location on the 2003 roof. The visual impact of all screen equipment at one location is arguably less than the visual impact screening individual units spread across the larger 1930s roof. The design on the 2003 roof addition includes a structural steel frame supporting all equipment at a single location using posts extended through the roof from the building columns. This is a more robust structural solution than placing the additional weight of screens on 1930s roof. So those are the two options.
So this is the other option that Laura showed, where everything is sitting on the newer addition with the screens around it, because that roof is a newer roof and can take the load compared to putting screens individually on each of these on the older roof. I think it's pretty much his opinion.
Right. So what basically, I'll summarize. So there could be screening around each individual one, which does nothing of value because you're going to still have the boxes around each individual unit. A parapet wall would be what you want to do. A parapet wall can't be supported by the roof. It's too heavy. So the alternative is to do the I-beam structured one on an older section of or the newer section of the roof.
Is there a possibility of another option?
I would imagine that we have vetted all of them at this point. The city does not want to, spend more money than we need to on something.
I know they tried to put it behind the parapet wall where all the units are sitting currently, but obviously they couldn't, there's no space for it. And hence the two options is either distribute them with no screening or bring them all together on the 2003 roof and screen around it, but it's going to be taller and you'll be able to see it.
It's not, I also wanted to let you guys know, this isn't a flat roof. It does curve. And so that's part of the issue as well. It's not just I don't think it's quite as easy to add additional structure underneath it to get that in place because of the the way the roof is designed. I think we probably would have replaced it already since it's an original roof to the building.
So is it the city's position then that they don't want to have the I-beam structure with the screen because of cost?
The request before you is for the individual HVAC units spread across the roof with no screening. If we need to, we will reevaluate.
How do you guys feel about the third option? Just all of them in one area with one screening around them all?
Well, to Greg's point, I mean, if it's a safety issue, the restaurant owner doesn't, it's a different precedent. If it's a cost issue, then Greg's right, we can't treat a city different than we treat a private citizen.
Definitely.
So Laura, did you say that it wasn't necessarily a cost issue?
So it is significantly more expensive to do the I-beam structure. Like I said, I believe it was an additional between the added costs of doing the I-beam structure and some additional ductwork that's required, plus the screening, it was about $250,000 more expensive.
To duct from one central location.
And the I-beam structure it's an extra $100,000 just for the I-beam structure, and then the ductwork plus the screening.
So being new to the board, have there been other situations in which what has been a precedence has been made an exception because of certain things?
That's a good question. I don't remember, but after our first year in existence, we made a lot of mistakes. And it was, most of those were related to precedent. And we ended up getting spanked later on because of this was done here and that was done there. And, and I guess a good example was the fire department. That created a huge uproar, and that they wanted to do some different things with their screening. And the fire chief made her stand right here in this room saying she wasn't going to do it, and she took it to the mayor. She took it to you guys first, didn't she?
I wasn't here at the time.
No, and ended up the mayor and the council encouraged her to change her attitude. And, and for a number of reasons, but the biggest one was precedent. And lawyers can figure out how to work through anything they want, but in that specific occasion, and it was again the city trying to sidestep cost. That's why I'm a little bit sensitive to the whole issue of cost. And when we ask the private public to stand up and follow our requirements and guidelines.
And it will happen again.
Yeah. Those are just my thoughts.
No, I agree. Sounds fine. Let's spend
the money and do it, I don't want to say correctly, but take the option that will give us the chance to be consistent with our guidelines and face the burden of the added cost.
Okay. So I'm going to kind of tell you guys how to make the motion on this. It would be a motion to approve, and then if you don't want to say, so that the request is no screening HVACs across the roof. So for bookkeeping purposes, you always make a motion in affirmative, so you motion to approve, and then you would not vote yes, if that makes sense to you. So, do you understand what I'm saying? Do
we have to add conditions onto it, or it's just, we're just gonna
well,
say?
you're gonna, sounds like you're voting no against the request. So then you wouldn't add conditions to something you're voting no on.
You guys ready? Anybody want to make a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say yes. All opposed, say no.
Can you do a roll call? Or sorry, let's do a roll call vote on this.
Okay.
Lundgren,
No.
Slobodan,
No.
Gramez,
No.
Steinecker,
No.
Salazar,
No.
Rashid.
And no.
Motion fails.
Moving on to the next case. DR 2102, request for design review. Downtown zoning district, installation of new canopy signage and request to remove a street tree at 303 West 3rd Street. Kyle Peters? Okay.
Okay, can we do the staff report part first, please? Sorry. Okay, so this item has, this project has been before the board before. The remaining item is the structural canopy signs, and so we have the information in the packet on that. And then there was a request to remove trees again, so that the signs are visible. And so staff recommends approval of the proposed 3 structural canopy signs and then denial on the removal of street trees. So for the request includes a total of 3 structural canopy signs. These are on the piece that projects over on West 3rd. They'll say Daiquiri Factory, Drinks and Eats. And I've got specs here for you. So, sorry. Okay. So these are the signs that were approved last time, the DAC signs across the top. And then these right here, zoom in a little bit, they're kind of hard to see on this screen. So this is the one that says Daiquiri Factory. And that's an illuminated cabinet sign in white with a black aluminum cabinet, and it's internally illuminated. And then this one says Drinks, and then Eats. They all conform to the sign code in terms of dimensions. And then, so here's the dimensions for you. So it will be LED, they'll be mounted by a clip. This is not a brick facade, it's a new structure, so a clip is appropriate. The lettering itself will be vinyl. Here is a rendering. So this is the Harrison Street side. And then that is the 3rd Street side. And that would be what it would look like illuminated at night. And on this rainy day, here's one in the rain, although you can't really tell from, I can see the rain, but. And then the architect asked me to provide this side-by-side comparison of the rendering versus the existing street trees right now. But we've kind of worked it out. The arborist is going to go out and trim them for the time being. And I believe that's been worked out. So that's all I have. Do you want to say anything else on it? Go for it. The microphone's in the ceiling, so kind of project up.
Shadow of the ceiling?
Yeah, that square right there, yeah.
Look up and yell. Ah! I'm Caleb Rogers, our architect with Streamline Architects here representing the project, and Kyle, the owner. It's good to hear that the staff recommends approval of our canopies. We do continue to make a request that the trees shrink to nothing, but realize that we have motivations here for them to go away so we can uncover our beautiful building. Not sure how to approach this from that point forward. Just here to entertain any questions anybody has.
So this application just for the signage then, or are we covering the trees here too?
Trees too.
And the position then is to remove the trees?
Yes. Okay. They significantly block the building. We're trying our best to revitalize this corner and replace what used to be here with something that's a little more, I guess, sustainable in its approach to business. So it's our opinion that the trees should go away to more feature the building.
You're just looking to remove the tree in the corner, or all three trees?
Well, it would be on the Harrison side too. It's not all of the trees, but it's.
Just one's blocking.
Yeah, the main one for me, honestly, was looking at the signage here. We're spending a lot of money on the signage, the DAC fact, the DAC refractor. The main one is really the one where the hand is at right now, the cursor. I mean, if our double doors currently are just on that precast, that brown precast where the sign is right below the hand right now, that's where our double doors are where DAC refractor is. So the arborist has been out. They did trim it, you know. So it definitely looks better. I just went and took vantage points, pictures, you know, from different. Because from what I was told that eventually Third Street was supposed to be a two-way, is what I was told within the next 2 years. So that's why we made the investment. Is that correct or no?
Next century, baby.
Next century?
And
Okay, well,
actually-
all I can do is go by what I was told, right? All right. So we spent a ton of money we took the time, the energy, and to put resources into the Harrison Street side as well. That's why we put so much signage on that side, because we went and took vantage points from looking at it, looking west on Third Street, if that became a two-way. And this was all the factors of why we did this. It was all by design. We didn't guess. And the hardest one for me is really the tree that's where the hand is at right now, just because that covers, well, you can see where it would say DAC Factory and DAC Fact. I live on a 50-acre tree farm. I love trees, but that's just a tough one for me to swallow for what we're spending on the signage. The trim job definitely looks better. We need landscaping out there because it definitely softens the building. We don't want to be just hardscape. So I agree 100%. We need something there. Originally, I know we had talked about maybe doing some planners and stuff, but I didn't think a business with Streetscape, their own business, I thought it was like to be with the city. Like if the city has a certain planner box, we would all fall in line. Like I wouldn't just buy my own planner box. I would, but I think we want it to match with what the vision is of the city. So we're not opposed to it. And we know we want landscaping. We want it to soften that. It was just that one's been the hardest one for me, is because it's right in front of those signs. That's it. I mean, that was the main thing.
Is that a before or after shot?
That's a before it.
Before?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was, I think I took that a couple weeks ago. And they just went out. They went out when we were changing.
I think
those
on
emails.
Monday, right?
Yeah.
Do
So-
those
Oh,
next two trees interfere with any of the signage?
It's tough to say. I don't think so. The middle one's questionable. The far right is okay. I think the middle one's a little, I'm just not sure how that's where the columns are gonna land, where it says drinks and eats, you know?
You are right about the planners and continuity in that.
Yeah.
Frankly, those trees a long time ago were part of the city's continuity of bringing trees to the hardscape downtown.
Right.
And, I understand your point.
I mean, I definitely want some, like, I'm willing to work, I'm just trying to figure out what's the best option. Signage, I know I have this problem, like in Rock Island for 17 years, you get so used to seeing it in the area and not looking at it objectively. I try to look at it as somebody coming from out of town, trying to find this place, and there's a tree in front of your sign. You're like, spend $1 million on a building and they can't see the sign. You know, that's all I'm trying to look at. Like, how can we, you know, it's like, is it compromise to get rid of the one? Is it to get rid of three and put in some really cool planter boxes? Like, we want something out there. I just don't know if that's the.
You want people to know that you're there.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that's a request by all means.
I would say that until something else is proposed, I would table that removal of street trees at this time. It is a significant city investment to put those trees in and maintain them. And we have a partnership with the Downtown Davenport Partnership Group in installing. We're continuing to install. It's kind of contrary to remove streetscaping in an area of the town where they're well-established and very healthy trees.
What happened to the ones across the street?
I don't know. I think they were
Just asking.
they were
I mean,
trimmed.
there was a whole series of trees and they're gone, and now it's.
I remember sitting in a partnership meeting when we first started talking about trees, and this sort of dates me as far as my age, but the hope was to have that kind of landscaping throughout downtown.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we are continuing to do so and investing on Second Street this summer and fall. And continue to, we have an arrangement with Downtown Davenport Partnership to help pay for that.
If we table this, is there a possibility that whoever the city streetscape people are to get involved with this or to get information from them to see what their recommendations might be?
So it's public right of way. So we have standards and specifications and a streetscape improvement plan that the Davenport, that the Design Review Board and the City Council have approved. And trees are part of that. I reached out to Kyle Carter, who is the executive director of the Downtown Davenport Partnership, and he suggested trimming the trees. That was his recommendation.
Is there a possibility of seeing a picture of the building with the tree trimmed?
I mean, sure.
Does it show any more? How much of the tree trimming did that help show your signage?
I didn't take a picture today. I mean, it's a little bit on the lower. Where it got trimmed a lot is the lower part, you know, essentially.
More visibility ground up.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tall. You know, I think for the top of that parapet, I believe is like 23 to 24 feet somewhere in there. So it's tall. You know, that's where our signage is. So, I mean, they definitely trimmed them. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an arborist, but there's a difference between trimming and shaping, you know, for sure. So, yeah.
Well, as I said last time you were here, I really love what you've done with that building. It's a striking building.
Yeah, I appreciate
it.
it.
It'd be great for downtown.
Mm-hmm.
But on the other hand, you know, there's a lot of people and a lot of dollars that have been invested in trying to grow trees. And frankly, those trees have done pretty well despite
the ones across the street
that
are gone.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I can ask the arborist. I'm assuming there's plans to replant them.
Oh,
Yeah, I would guess.
They weren't ash trees, were they?
I don't know. These are elm. These are elm.
Okay, they've been cutting a lot of ash trees around the city, you know, because of the problem with those.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but if Kyle is to propose any landscaping to replace the trees, he would end up right back here, correct?
Yep, any variation from the streetscape improvement plan would come back to the Design Review Board.
So.
But just so your proposal right now is just remove trees.
Yeah, at least the one, I was proposing for the one where all our signage is. That's,
Well, you'll probably see all of us drive past there tonight, just to see what happened today.
yeah, perfect.
Would the city offer a certificate of occupancy until before this?
This is not tied to certificate of occupancy.
No.
Removal of street tree is separate.
So you just want to remove the one right there in the corner by the front door?
Yeah, the one that's basically, yeah, I mean, it's your main entrance where there are two main signs, you know.
Yeah, I'm
It's,
with Greg again. I like the building. I think you should show that off.
yeah,
But if you're to replace it, I mean, we'll be right here again next month or whenever, so.
I would offer up a motion.
Is there a second?
Wait, what
Are
is
we
your,
just voting, are we voting on both?
what is your motion?
Motion is to approve those changes, staff recommendations for the building, but table the trees issue. And I'd like to see some, well, like I said, we'll probably all march down there
Yeah.
after we leave here tonight, but I'd like to see some pictures with that reflection on the building. But again, keep in mind, lots of people and lots of money have been spent to try and grow those trees, and I'm sure that there's a lot of businesses who would like to not have them in front of their buildings too.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, if it wasn't right in front of the sign, I wouldn't even be asking. Just one of those things, that's what it is.
Sure.
That's, if it wasn't right there, it'd be different, I wouldn't even be asking, but, yeah.
But I don't want to speak for the whole board, but I think after the last meeting, we all wish you most success, and you've just done a really nice job at turning what had become somewhat of a pariah downtown into something that could really be fun and nice.
Right, I appreciate it.
Appreciate your efforts.
Yep, yeah, we're looking forward to it. Definitely.
So is there a second to Greg's motion?
I'll second.
Is there anything else? All in favor, say yes.
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 All opposed, say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. To new business, case DR 2110, request for design review, downtown zoning district, exterior remodel of 626 West River Drive, Caleb Rogers.
It's the Caleb show.
Okay, so the building proposed for design review is the former Scott County Kennel Club building at 626 West River Drive. There's a new tenant proposed, which will be a bakery. The upgrades for the building are for new entrances to the southwest and north building facades. So it's to bring them up to code to be code compliant. They will be retrofitted with stairs and ramps that will not encroach into the right-of-way, so it will be on private property. And then the existing masonry around those areas will just be cleaned and tuck pointed as needed. So the exterior work is really limited to replacement of the existing exterior doors, replacement of the existing south stair due to deferred maintenance and decay, installation of a new east stair and ramp due to code required egress, and then installation and replacement of the north stair due as well for code compliance. So the new exterior materials are limited to solid panel, overhead door painted black, hollow metal door and frames also painted black. So again, this will tie in with the downtown streetscaping of black streetlights, benches, receptacles. And then there will be uncolored concrete ramp and stair surfaces and door and dock patches, as well as tubular guardrail and handrails as required by code, also painted black. So staff is recommending approval of the project as shown. However, we are recommending a condition that if damaged brick cannot be salvaged, then replacement brick shall be reviewed and approved by city staff. So this image submitted by the applicant shows the location of the 3 entrances that will be remodeled for code compliance.
There's no trees.
Keep your reading inside. So it's right here, here, and here.
North is to the right.
Correct.
The one to the north is.
Are you still doing this? The ramp at the north too?
So that's what it would look like.
From River Drive.
From River Drive with the improvement in place. It's a much better improvement. Right now, it's an old concrete steps with a wooden stair over it. It looks very bad. And then this is the east side. East
Correct.
side of the building. So loading dock, ramp. And then and this is the north side. Has the property been acquired by the applicant?
It's underway right now.
Okay.
I don't have a result on that.
Okay. And then similar style on the north side. And this is so this is from the alley looking south. Gaines Street is right here. So that's it.
Is there anything you'd like to add, or?
Yes, it's mostly an inward facing project. It's not a public entering into the bakery, it's a commercial bakery. It's small in scale, there'll be staff, but it won't be the public typically entering this project. So all of our investment is focused on the inside of the building. We look forward to making this a home for the baker that's gonna be moving in, and then maybe in the future, other improvements are done, but at the first stage of it, you won't really be able to tell what's going on. It's mostly maintenance and code required egress stuff on the outside of the building.
The bakery smells will be available for the public outside.
Yes.
This is, that building's long in need of some help. And,
Yeah, I think there's some of the brick damage is from salt due to where it's located. So I don't know if it's salvageable, but
We're happy to bring in samples when the time comes for the masonry repair to.
yeah. And we'd request that at staff level so they don't have to come back to review the brick.
Great.
Is there any other questions?
I would move to approve.
Second.
With the conditions that staff have proposed?
Yes.
Okay. And just of note for all of you, and it's really for Caleb, until the north ramp would not be able to move forward until the proof of ownership change has occurred.
Any other further discussion? All in favor say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed say no. Motion carries.
Did we get it? I don't know if I got a second. Can I?
Greg did, yep.
Greg did? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Case DR 2111, request for design review, Village of East Davenport, installation of elevated deck at 2218 East 11th Street. Darren Lowe. Hey, Darren.
Okay. Is this one here? So we have a new project coming into the Village of East Davenport. And the proposal that you'd see from the exterior, it would be a railing on so they're going to do outdoor dining associated with it. So it would be railing on the ground level and then an elevated deck that would be 70 by a 10 by a 70.
Initially, it was proposed as a 10 we have a 14-foot easement, so we wanted to go out 10 foot and back 90 feet. But that was, we worked back to 70, but I think there's still some.
So
talk
the
around
first
the original
floor,
design.
the ground level would still go up to the.
Yeah, so the
building.
ground level
Yeah.
currently has existing railing in there.
You can come up to the podium
Yeah,
if
you
you'd
can
like.
come up here if you
Oh,
want.
sorry, yeah, my bad.
Don't be afraid.
Yeah.
So it,
So yeah, the ground level currently has existing railing that was in existence. It's been taken out at the moment because of the building works going on. With both buildings being the boiler building plus the blast building being worked on. So that railing would go back in as existing.
yeah, and I think I have a picture with at least pieces of railing
Yeah,
in there.
yeah. If you-
So, I mean, staff's recommendation right now, so the application had a couple things in it. One was for the railing and elevated deck. And staff's recommendation is for approval with, as presented with the condition that the deck railing and structural support materials are non-combustible due to its proximity to the property line. And then staff recommends tabling the wall sign and projecting sign until we have more detailed plans submitted for review. The other component that will happen is some, I don't know if it'll be full paint removal,
Yeah,
but
so the paint on the front of the building is peeling, and the plan is to try to power wash that paint off to reveal the original brickwork back underneath it as well.
so right now that's what the building looks like. The awnings are staying. They're not changing any windows. They're not changing any doors. So you can kind of see what Darren's referring to, the peeling. So it would be revealing the original brick color to the building, and then the deck will go over here. I have a different angle here. This is where you can see the railing style there. This is from the other side, looking down. This is where the deck would go. Here, it would kind of, it's been pushed back to about here, along the wall here. This was what kind of generally was submitted as an idea, but I think that really anything along this lines in the black aluminum fence to code, especially on the deck, needs to be a specific height. So, and then we have, this is let me back up a little bit. This is kind of the rendering of what it would look like at street elevation. That's from the south, and then this is what it looks like on the side.
So that's the design with the 20 feet pushed back.
Yeah.
Originally, it was proposed to go to the street, so it went right out to give a good viewpoint of the village, the baseball field, and the river as well. I'm not really sure why it was pushed back. I wasn't in that meeting. Do you know?
No, I don't.
It was the number of occupants on the deck.
Oh, yeah.
If you had more than 50, you'd need 2 exits from the deck, and it's not a sprinkled building. That's
Oh,
why
okay.
we decided to make it
Thank you for
shorter.
letting me know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, the exit is at the rear of the property. The entrance is in the property. So we can control who goes up on our deck. They would have a push gate on the exit, so you couldn't go up that way from the outside. You have to come through the building to get onto it, so we can control the numbers going up onto the deck.
And both the proposed door and stairs won't be visible from the public right of way.
Yeah.
But really, it's more the elevated deck and the railing, and then it would be the cleaning of the brick back to its original state.
And we were asked before, why do we want to do an upper deck? And really, is to protect ourselves against any future pandemics, really, to make our outdoor space as big as possible. We can then section off the underneath of that space into, those igloo type spaces that you see popping up. But in a more fashionable space, because we have the covering over top, we can partition them off into blocks of 10 people in each one, as well as having extra outdoor space up top and utilizing a space that's realistically underused at the moment.
Does anybody have any questions from the board?
to see how this turns out, power washing.
So the power wash company that's been in there, they do a lot of work with boilers next door. They were power washing at the time. It was them we talked to. I can't remember the name, but they'd taken a look at it. And can you go back to the original, the paint picture? The one, you'll see where it's peeling, and it's peeling pretty bad on that front. You can literally go there and pick it off with your fingers. It's not that attached to the brick at all. You can physically start to peel it. So with some light power washing, he believes that you can get that right back to where it should be, where it shouldn't be able to damage any brickwork whatsoever on that original building. And if there is any damage, obviously we'd make it good to what it looked like originally. The building is 1935. It's obviously seen as wear and tear over the years anyway. With the peeling paint, it definitely has to be taken care of. There was a signage on the side here. You see where it says BIOS, but there was actually signage on the front as well, which the owner took down shortly before some of these pictures were taken. So signage on that corner reflecting the business on both sides of the corner, which is what we're looking at too. That was existing as well. Unfortunately, you can't see. You can just see the outline of it roughly there, and that's exactly where we plan to put, the other signage is just above the deck on that corner. So again, you can see it from coming down the street or coming from the front as well. So just wrapped around that corner.
Is the plan to take all of the paint off or
Just-
to repaint?
Yeah, so the front would be to take it off. The side, which seems to be holding up much, much better, is the plan. The future plan would be to repaint that. At the moment, we're not providing any information to repaint the whole side of the building. We plan to keep that site as it is at this moment in time. I don't think there was any. Okay.
It was verbally told to me, but it
That
wasn't in the
they might
application.
change it, yeah. But if that's a condition, that's something obviously that we would consider if we had to paint. But the site is we've seen it's a different style of brickwork down the side as it is to the front, and it's adhered to the side a lot better than it has to the front of the building. You can see there's just no peeling at all on the side. I don't know if you guys know the history of this building at all. It was an old milk dairy back in 1935 for McKeel's Dairy, purposely built for that purpose. And we plan to do some renderings inside the building of the previous purpose with big black and white photographs. We've got some really historical pictures in there. The front of the building, once we take the paint off, that'll be back to its original brickwork and condition as well. And it was a cannery in the back, and obviously the purpose of the building is to put canning back into that building as well. So. The project's called Eddy Street Brew Works because this original 11th Street was called Main Street, and then back in the day it was called Eddy Street after Stubbs Eddy. So that's why we've named the building and the project Eddy Street Brew Works. So try to bring some of that history back into the village as well.
We're just voting on the structure, right? Are we going to table the signage?
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion?
Yeah, motion to approve with the conditions we table signage.
Is there a second? Any other further discussion? All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries.
So is the motion passed to power wash the front and continue with the structure on the side, but leave the signage at the moment? Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, you can vote separately on that if you would like.
Are we approving both? I guess.
So we've approved the structure, and we need to, are we approving the power washing?
Correct. If somebody wants to make a motion to approve power washing of the building and paint removal, really it's removing paint from the front facade.
I'm going to approve.
Second.
All in favor say yes.
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 All opposed say no. Motion carries.
And do you have why the board has decided to table the signage?
We don't have detailed specs on the signage.
Oh, okay, I thought Chris had submitted them from Townsend Engineering.
Yeah, we don't have anything.
Okay, we'll work on that then. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Amanda.
Thank you. Have a great night. Yeah.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks, everyone.
Okay. So this is Evan, why don't you read the item before I jump into it? Sorry. I got it.
Case DR 2110, request for design review, downtown zoning district exterior remodel of 412 East Second Street. Caleb Rogers, petitioner on behalf of Bill Sheeters.
So this is just under discussion. They're not far enough along that they're asking for an actual approval from the design review board. This is for a new project down in an area that's been fairly neglected across from Bechtel Park, directly east of Dam View. I'll show you it in a minute. So there's a couple of things that need to be discussed. One is just the general concept that's being proposed. They're looking for some initial feedback on that. And then some other fundamental pieces that take quite a lot of planning and discussion would be the encroachment in the public right-of-way, which the design review board doesn't approve, but can provide feedback on. And then the streetscaping, it hasn't been identified in this corridor yet. Generally speaking, I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea of what encroachment really means is use of the public right-of-way. So that is something that it requires city council approval. It goes to the city engineer for review, and there's some things that need to be given to the engineering department for that review. In that consideration, there's a couple things other than the actual structure that are looked at. It's what's underground there, if there's public or private utilities there, that we need to ensure that there's still good pedestrian flow. And then we would need to ensure that there's some space left for some streetscaping in the future. So those are some components that would be up for discussion. And then the streetscaping itself, as right now, there's no proposal for streetscaping. They're just at the building concept stage. But any kind of variation from a streetscaping plan would be approved by, as we just discussed, would be something that would need to go to the design review board for approval. So we do have the downtown Davenport streetscape improvement plan that kind of outlines what streetscaping use, what it would look like in this area. Second Street's a primary design street, so it calls for brick accent panels, like you've seen in the downtown, street lights and tree wells for trees, street trees. So as I stated, the streetscaping elements, if they are deviate from that streetscape improvement plan, would come to the design review board for review. We also do have state urban design specifications that require, or the standard is 4 feet of brick banding and then 8 feet of pedestrian walkway, but there is wiggle room related to that component of it. So this is just discussion time. There's a lot of stuff that needs to be worked out between the city, downtown to Davenport partnership, and the petitioner related to some of that components, but they just want some feedback on the actual building frontage. So with that, drum roll, sorry. I'm going to show you the picture first, and then we can go back to what it actually.
That's the most helpful part.
Yeah. Okay.
Can I speak for a second?
Yes, yes.
So Streamline Architects is working with a few motivated people who really wish to reinvigorate this specific area of downtown Davenport, just on the fringe here. And this project started out as something very small with the potential to go to something that encompasses the entire area. So the first step in this is to create something that's small and positive and set the right tone for the rest of this triangle block and combine traditional aesthetics and modern aesthetics, make something that's more of a destination, something that's ups kind of the classiness level of this little area. And so we first were approached with this, as kind of a little seed project. So all that we were intending to do is a small tenant improvement inside of the building on the first floor of this 2-story segment of just this block. It's very limited. And then it turned into, we need to make it more visible from the outside of the building. People that are flying by on their cars driving too fast. So let's develop the facade of the building a little bit. And then it became, we really like having people out front and seated and enjoying a sandwich or a taco or a drink or something. So that's where we are now, is we have what is just a little tiny baby restaurant spot with a new face on this building. It's not even the entire building, it's just a small portion, the first floor of the building. And there's potential to expand to the second level of this building as in a future phase, and then there's a potential to expand to the left and the right and behind it and up and all these other things. So we're just trying to set the right tone. And that's kind of why we're here. We submitted to Laura and realized that really maybe we're early, maybe we're not, but it's good
It's
to
not bad to be early,
get the
though.
board to start interjecting what your feedback could be on something like this. So this is a seed that hopefully grows into a much larger thing in this triangle.
So this is what the building looks like today. Ragged Records used to be in this lower part to the right here. So that's one of the components that Caleb's talking about that could expand that way. This is also at the intersection with Iowa, right? Iowa Street. So Great River Brewery area, and then there is a building that was formerly owned by the Downtown Davenport Partnership that there is a developer that is looking at that property too. So it's a huge amount of change in the horizon here. And so I think it's good to have these initial conversations in terms of setting the tone for that area of the downtown. So that's what it looks like right now.
And it's unoccupied, there's nothing
Yeah.
really in that
Yeah, absolutely.
two-story section at all.
Yeah, the only thing on that block that has anything in it is Dam View. So, and that's a pretty narrow street frontage, yeah. So this is, do you want to kind of walk through what they're looking at?
I think the last page.
The last one? Okay. Yeah.
So this gives, so Dan View is the segment that's on the left. And then we're planning to essentially just create a picture frame around this 2-story section. The first floor would have operable glass on it, and people could come out and sit at some cafe tables or something of that sort on the street sidewalk area. Upstairs would be a decorative balcony now, but maybe in a phase 2, the second story would be renovated into something, and they would have access to a balcony in the future. So it's a multi-step thing, and then maybe things expand to the left and the right and up and behind it. So this is just, like I said, the very first stage of what could be a good combination of traditional and modern aesthetics and activates the street front like it is happening elsewhere downtown, but we pull it a little bit farther to the east.
And just for everybody's knowledge, this isn't a National Historic District, a newer one that was done, I think it was approved maybe about 2 years ago. It was before COVID, kind of during the flood, it got approved. So just as an FYI on that component. So you probably don't know this, but I'm also the city's certified floodplain manager. So I've already let Caleb know that if you do something this drastic, they would also have to fully comply with the flood damage prevention ordinance, as it would be considered no longer listable on the National Register of Historic Places. I just wanted to get that out there early because that has a big impact on the inside of what is going on in the building. Not necessarily that I'm opposed, but just kind of an FYI.
Yep. Some of the other stuff we still have to resolve is how do we actually utilize the 11 or 12 feet of street frontage, sidewalk, how much of it we can create these little bookends for our seating area, for our specific tenant, or how open.
Yeah.
That's the intention.
Yeah, it's a 0 lot line right now. There's no, it's not, the building's not set back. So that would be all within the public right of way right now. And for your edification, if there's any drinking outside, the bottom would have to be fenced in. That's not zoning code, but that's a different piece of code.
Was that apartments upstairs before? You know?
I can't speak to what it was before. What it is now is just wide open. There's not a single wall in there. There's, at the north end of the building that we can't see, there's a car lift. So at one point, there was a service station or something. Sales that happen upstairs.
I don't know the history of this building, but it's in a district that is called the Davenport Historic Motor Row. It's a series of buildings that were related to car repair, car sales, gas stations, things along those lines. So I would imagine that it had some kind of use related to that.
It doesn't look like it's been used in decades, and I wouldn't want to exist on it, but it's there.
Yeah.
And Bechtel Park is right directly
Correct.
south.
Yes.
So as we start the rejuvenation process of this small area, just looking for the design review board's preliminary thoughts, musings on what this could be, if there's guidance that you guys would like to offer as far as how we take the next steps with the board.
I don't know how much guidance I could provide, but I do like where that's going. I like the design, and I like the revitalization and bringing that back to life a little bit. So I don't know how useful that is to you.
Yeah, I'm not sure I could add anything to it yet either, Caleb, but I would like to know when you're going to have it done. Can you hurry?
Done's a relative term.
There's a lot of work. I wish we could show everything that we have cooking here. Wish, because it's so cool. But this is just the first step.
Yeah, I mean, if the design review board is one of the dominoes to fall to make all this happen, I mean, I think with the design as you render there, I'm on board with that, and I think it could be a really good thing for the area.
I am too. I think that's a good first step. Anxious to see what your next steps will be.
Are you set on that depth?
No.
In that, Troy? So.
What was the question?
Just the depth on the facade.
Okay. And what was that?
Something we want to work with on public works, et
Yeah.
cetera, on what the.
So it would only leave about 5 feet left for both streetscaping and pedestrian use. So it'll probably step back, at least on the first floor, a little bit. And there's also the question of fundamentally, is the street too wide for that area? So we have a lot of discussions that need to be had related to that whole block.
Yeah, we're just trying to start up the conversation because there's a lot of work that's going to be happening privately right here, and we don't want to get too far in front of the city.
Sure. Thanks for doing that. I think that's being very proactive.
Anyone else want to add anything?
Are you not sick of us yet tonight?
I mean, I can stick around.
This looks like a great project, so yeah.
Yeah. Seems like a lot of moving pieces that have to come together all at the right time, but I don't see, I don't know if I speak for the whole board, but I don't see myself getting in the way of something like that, so.
So I did include in your packet, so if you want to take a look through it, what the streetscaping improvement plan is for the downtown, it's all in here. I included it in the packet for your review, and just so you have it. It kind of looks like what you're seeing in the downtown now. It's more of the same. And then that's all. This is kind of like, it's right across from here, so.
Can I ask if there are planned revisions to this plan?
Not the streetscape plan. It was adopted in 2018. It's a fairly new plan.
That's all I have.
Laura, do you know if Bechtel Park is used to any degree?
It's a private park. It's not city programmed. I do think that the ownership has, I believe, changed. I think there was a death in that living trust, and I'm not sure what the plans are for it now. I do know that Downtown Davenport Partnerships' overall plans are to actively plan and all of the plazas and parks within the downtown.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And then the only thing left is, it's not for discussion, it's because Matt Flynn was sensitive to the fact that this was going to be a long meeting. But Matt Flynn, he's still around. He's taking on longer term projects, one of which I am very grateful that he's tackling. It's starting to revise the downtown guidelines, design guidelines. They're original to the downtown. So history lesson, and Greg and PJ could probably help me out a little bit. So the design review board's been around since about 2008-ish. And so they were written, the guidelines were written before that, slightly before that. So they're old at this point. A lot has changed in both the downtown. There's been a lot has changed in the downtown. And then just some general applications and how documents are I don't find it to be a super user-friendly guideline. I think it can be pared down and more user-friendly. So the first step in that is to kind of go over what the shared goals and visions and values are of the downtown. And so Matt, in the packet, provided what he's kind of proposing between the existing downtown table of contents and what would be on the proposed one. So when you look through your packet, on the right, I'm sorry, on the left in the red is what exists right now in the guidelines, and then on the green on the right, did I say that right? Is what he's kind of proposing for an outline, and then you will see him more frequently to kind of start working through elements of it as he, because this is a pretty hefty undertaking to update these guidelines. So getting the design review board's input in that process will be key. So he's working through that. So take a look. If you have any feedback, you can give it to me, or you can give it directly to Matt Flynn. His email is on the cover sheet for this agenda item. But no need to discuss, just reflect and kind of give us some feedback, and just kind of a preview that we're hoping to get this document updated.
Does he have a timeline?
I have not asked. I don't know. As soon as possible in my mind.
Sure.
I think that's everything. Oh, sure, gotta close the meeting, so.
Just take a motion to adjourn.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye.
Yep.
All in favor, say no. Motion passes.
Okay, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you. Thank you for helping us think through all of our things.